The desert winds of Virelia 3 carried a bitter chill. Although the sun had barely risen over the horizon, jagged rocks stretched for miles, broken only by the shadow of a strange object that had become the center of the planet's most whispered mysteries. It was a shipwreck, ancient and blackened, its hull scarred by time and storms that no human mind could measure. Yet what made this ship unusual was not the scars it bore, but the fact that it seemed to move on its own. Every morning, when the explorers of the nearby colony awoke, the ship appeared to have shifted positions slightly. No tide, no wind, no quake could account for the change. And tonight, the wind carried with it a whisper of curiosity and fear. Commander Alara Miles stepped from her shuttle, boots crunching against the rocky ground. She squinted against the rising sun, her gaze tracing the contours of the shipwreck. Its jagged edges reflected light strangely, as if the metal itself held a pulse. She adjusted her pack, feeling the familiar weight of her exploration gear and sensors. Her team gathered behind her. Lieutenant Joran, a tall, quiet man with sharp eyes. Dr. Mirahan, the ship's physicist, always scribbling numbers and theories on her portable tablet. And Kale, their security officer, whose calm demeanor masked a fierce protectiveness. "It's just a wreck," Kale muttered, his voice low, but there was a hint of awe in it. "Why is everyone making such a fuss?" Alara shook her head. "Because it isn't just a wreck. Nothing about this ship makes sense. It's old, far older than any vessel humans have documented in this sector. And yet, it moves. Not slowly, not randomly, but subtly, like it knows it's being watched." Joran stepped closer to the edge of the plateau, scanning the ground. "I've marked its location every day for a week. Each morning, it's shifted by a few meters, rotated slightly on its axis. I've checked for seismic activity, for environmental forces. Nothing. No explanation." Dr. Hahn tapped her tablet furiously. "I've been reading the energy readings. There's something like a low hum of power, almost imperceptible, surrounding the hull. It's alive, somehow. Not biological life. Not even AI, in any form I've seen. It reacts, it changes. It's not passive." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Then that's exactly why we're here. We need to understand it. And we need to understand it before someone less careful arrives and tries to tear it apart." The team approached the ship slowly, their boots echoing against the stone. The closer they got, the more the air felt heavy, tinged with an energy that was difficult to describe. It pressed lightly against their skin, like static electricity combined with an unplaceable unease. Kale muttered again, this time with a hint of fear. "I don't like this. There's something wrong here." Alara kept her voice calm. "Everything unknown feels wrong at first. That's why we study it." The ship's hull loomed above them. It was enormous, far larger than any known design, with twisted metal that suggested both elegance and brutality. The edges of the ship were sharp, but the surfaces curved in ways that made the structure seem almost alive. Symbols, alien in nature, ran along the hull in faintly glowing lines. The team paused, studying them. "I've never seen anything like this," Mira whispered. "It's not just a language. It's a pattern. It's communicating, but I can't decipher it." Joran crouched, tracing the ground. "Look, these are impressions, like the ship's weight has shifted slightly overnight. But the ground is solid rock. How is this even possible?" Alara stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on the ship's surface. The metal hummed under her touch. The vibration was soft at first, almost like a heartbeat. Then it surged briefly, sending a shiver through her arm. She pulled back instinctively. "It's alive," she murmured. "Or at least, aware." The team spent hours scanning the ship, mapping its edges, its curves, its strange symbols. Sensors pinged repeatedly, recording anomalies that defied explanation. As the sun climbed higher, the team debated their next move. "We can't just stand here forever," Joran said. "We need to get inside." We need to see if the energy source is within, or if it's the ship itself. Alara nodded. Agreed, but cautiously. No rushing in blindly. This ship has moved for a reason. It's intelligent, and it may not welcome intruders. They found a hatch along the side of the ship, partially buried under rocks that had shifted overnight. Mira knelt beside it, scanning the mechanism. No standard locks, but there's energy flowing around the seams. If we can tap it, maybe we can open it without triggering anything. Alara studied the hatch. Do it. Slowly. Mira's fingers flew over her tablet, lines of code streaming across the screen. The hatch shuddered, and then, with a quiet hiss, slid open. A dark corridor yawned before them, deeper than they had expected. The air inside smelled faintly of ozone, and something else, something metallic yet organic. Kale tightened his grip on his energy rifle. I still don't like this. Alara gave him a steady look. No one does at first. But courage isn't about liking it. It's about facing it. They stepped inside. The corridor curved in impossible ways, twisting subtly as if the ship itself was adjusting to their presence. Lights flickered along the walls, illuminating alien symbols that pulsed faintly under their gaze. Mira scanned continuously, her tablet struggling to keep up with the readings. It's adapting, she said softly. It's changing to accommodate us. Or testing us. Joran frowned. Testing? Why would a ship test us? Alara didn't answer immediately. She felt the energy pressing against her mind, not in a violent way, but subtly, nudging thoughts, suggesting paths. It was unsettling, because it can. Because it wants to know why we're here. Because this ship has a purpose, and we need to understand it before we can move forward. Quote, hours passed. The corridors stretched endlessly. The team discovered rooms filled with alien technology devices that hummed faintly, screens that displayed patterns they could not comprehend, and small cubes of glowing energy suspended in midair. Each room seemed alive, reacting to their presence. Then came the first real warning. A sudden shift of the ship, so subtle it almost went unnoticed. The floor trembled, and the lights flickered. Mira froze, staring at her tablet. It's moving, right now. But there's no earthquake, no external force. It's inside the ship. Alara's heart quickened. Everyone, stay calm. We need to understand what it's doing, not panic. The shift was brief, almost gentle, yet it was undeniable. The ship moved. Not violently, not destructively, but with intent, as if repositioning itself carefully, adjusting its weight, its alignment. Kale muttered under his breath. I told you, something is wrong here. But Alara held up a hand. No. Something is alive here. And it may be communicating. Or warning. Either way, we need to pay attention. By evening, the team reached what appeared to be the ship's control center. The room was massive, with a central console that floated above the floor, illuminated by a soft, blue glow. Holographic symbols swirled in the air, rearranging themselves as if aware of the team's presence. Mira stepped forward, awe written across her face. I've never seen anything like this. It's a mind. Not just AI. It's thinking. Joran frowned. And if it's thinking, what does it want from us? Alara stepped closer to the console, placing her hands above the holographic interface. A pulse ran through her. Like a gentle push against her consciousness, images flashed in her mind, stars, ships, a species she could not name, and then, a sense of warning, a message, fragmented but urgent. The ship. It's trying to tell us something, she said, her voice trembling slightly. We just don't know what yet. Night fell, and the team set up their camp inside the ship, using the corridors for shelter. Outside, the wind howled across the plateau, and the distant stars glimmered coldly. Alara gazed out at the shadowed shape of the hull, sensing, somehow, that the ship had already begun to move again. As the hours passed, Tiny tremors shook the floor. The hull shifted imperceptibly, repositioning itself once more. The team felt it. Though none dared speak, Mira recorded the energy fluctuations. Joran monitored structural shifts, and Kale stood silently, ever vigilant. Elara, however, could not rest. She wandered the corridors alone, touching the walls lightly, feeling the hum beneath her fingers. She whispered into the silence, "I don't know what you are, but I want to understand." And in the quiet darkness, she felt a response. Not in words, not in sound, but in thought. A subtle echo that promised a mystery far deeper than any human mind could yet comprehend. The ship had moved again, and with it, the first step into something far larger than exploration, into a secret that could change the fate of humanity itself. The next morning, Virelia 3's pale sun rose over the rocky plateau, but the shipwreck that had haunted the team's thoughts throughout the night had shifted once again. It was subtle, a slight rotation along its axis, a change of a few meters but enough to confirm what they had feared and hoped at the same time. The ship was alive, moving on its own, responding to something beyond their understanding. Commander Elara Miles stood at the edge of the plateau, scanning the newly shifted position. Her brow furrowed. "It's deliberate," she said, almost to herself. "It knows we're here." Lieutenant Joran joined her, holding a tablet filled with detailed measurements from the past week. "There's a pattern," he said, pointing to the overlay of positions. "The shifts aren't random. It seems to be aligning itself with something, or someone." Dr. Mira Han, carrying her sensors and analysis tools, squinted at the readings. "I've never seen energy like this. It's not just moving the ship physically. It's manipulating some kind of force field around it. Something that bends space subtly. And maybe even time." Kale, as always, stood near the shuttle, scanning the horizon. "I don't like it. I don't like any of this. This ship, it's dangerous. And I have a feeling it's testing us." Elara's eyes narrowed, her mind already racing through possibilities. "Testing or not, we have to understand it. We can't leave it here unknown, uncontrolled. This could be the key to technologies we haven't even dreamed of yet." The team approached the ship carefully, the hum of its energy almost audible now. It vibrated softly underfoot, as if the very rock beneath them recognized their presence. The hatch they had discovered yesterday remained open, a silent invitation or a warning. Inside, the corridors seemed even more alive. The alien symbols along the walls glowed faintly, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost like a heartbeat. Every step the team took caused subtle changes. The lights flickered, the walls shifted slightly, and small sections of the floor rearranged themselves, forming patterns that were almost geometric, almost organic. "This is incredible," Mira whispered. "It's like the ship is adapting, learning from us, responding to our presence." Elara nodded. "Exactly. And that means it has a purpose. Something it wants us to understand. Or maybe prove." As they progressed deeper into the ship, the team discovered chambers filled with strange alien machinery. Devices floated in midair, glowing softly, and panels displayed streams of light that moved like liquid. Mira scanned one of the floating devices with her tablet. "This energy, it's conscious, or at least reactive. It responds to thought, to intention, almost like it can feel us." Joran frowned. "Can it hurt us?" Elara paused. "It might. Or it might be observing. We have to be careful. One wrong move, and we could trigger something we don't understand." They reached a larger room, unlike any other they had seen. At the center was a platform that seemed to pulse with energy. Surrounding it were holographic projections of stars, planets, and strange, interconnected pathways that defied any known physics. Mira gasped. This is a map. But not just any map. It's a star network. A guide to systems we've never discovered. Routes faster than any warp technology we have. It's incredible. Elara stepped closer, her fingers hovering over the holographic interface. As she did, the platform pulsed brighter, sending a ripple through the air. For a moment, she felt a wave of images flash through her mind. Alien ships traveling through the stars, a civilization rising and falling. And then, the ship itself, moving deliberately across unknown worlds. It's showing us its history, she said softly. Or the history of whoever built it. Suddenly, the corridor behind them shuddered. Kale spun around, weapon ready. We're not alone, he growled. The team froze. At first, there was nothing, just the quiet hum of the ship's energy. Then, shadows shifted along the walls, faint and flickering. Mira's tablet began registering irregular readings. It's creating illusions, she said. Or projections. It's testing us. Elara took a deep breath. Stay calm, focus. If it's testing us, we have to show we can handle it. The shadows coalesced into shapes, figures that resembled the human team members themselves. Kale's doppelganger moved with his exact gestures, and Joran's twin mimicked every step. Mira's clone stared at her with the same awe and fear that she felt inside. It's showing us ourselves, Mira whispered. Our fears. Our doubts. Elara focused her mind, pushing back against the illusions. It's a test. Not real. Remember who you are. Remember why we're here. Gradually, the projections began to fade, dissolving into shimmering light. The ship's energy pulsed once, like a nod of approval or perhaps acknowledgement. We passed the first test, Elara said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. But this is just the beginning. There's more it wants us to see, and we need to understand it completely. The central platform began to shift, rotating slowly. Paths appeared along the floor, leading deeper into the ship. The air grew warmer, the hum stronger, and the alien symbols now glowed more vividly, casting soft light across the walls. This way, Elara said, leading her team. We have to follow it. The corridors became narrower, twisting in ways that challenged their perception. Sometimes they felt as if they were moving in circles, only to find a new chamber appearing in front of them. It was disorienting, yet they pressed on, driven by curiosity and determination. They entered a chamber filled with strange crystalline structures. Each crystal pulsed with energy, and as they approached, they felt the vibrations resonate with their own thoughts and emotions. Mira's hands trembled as she reached out. These crystals, they're storing information, knowledge, memories, the history of the ship, and its creators. Elara placed her hand on a large crystal. A flood of images overwhelmed her mind. A star system engulfed in flames, alien cities collapsing, beings fleeing across space. She staggered, but held her ground. It's showing us their extinction, she said. Their civilization, gone. And this ship, it survived. Joran stepped closer, awe and concern etched on his face. And it's been waiting. For someone to find it. For someone worthy. Not P. Kale lowered his weapon, though his eyes never left the crystal. Worthy? Of what? Elara's voice was calm, but determined. Of the knowledge it holds. The power it can give us. But it tests those who seek it. To see if we're capable of handling it. Responsibly. The team spent hours examining the chamber, each crystal revealing fragments of information. They saw maps of distant star systems, blueprints for technologies far beyond human understanding, and glimpses of alien biology and culture. The more they saw, the more they understood the gravity of their discovery. As night fell on Virelia 3, the ship shifted again. This time, it was more pronounced. Almost as if it was moving to protect them, or perhaps guide them. The team felt the subtle pull of the ship's energy, urging them forward. We need to rest, Elara said, though her mind raced with questions. Tomorrow, we continue deeper. There's something at the heart of this ship we haven't found yet. And I think it's waiting for us. They set up a temporary camp in the crystalline chamber, using their equipment to monitor the ship's energy. Outside, the plateau lay quiet under the pale light of the planet's twin moons, yet the ship continued to move subtly, shifting its weight and position, reminding them that it was alive, aware, and in control. During the night, Elara awoke to a strange sensation. The hum of the ship was stronger now, and faint whispers seemed to echo in her mind. She sat up, trying to focus. The energy was guiding her, or perhaps speaking to her in a language she could not yet understand. She reached out instinctively, letting her hand hover over one of the glowing crystals. Images flashed, stars, ships, and then a warning, faint but clear in its meaning. The ship was alive. It had survived the extinction of its creators, and it was not finished testing them. When morning came, the team gathered, sharing their experiences from the night. Mira had recorded strange fluctuations, Joran had observed new shifts in the ship's position, and Kale admitted he had seen visions of potential dangers, projections of threats that might lie ahead. Elara addressed the team, her voice calm but resolute. This ship is not just a relic, it's a guardian. It holds secrets and knowledge that could change everything. But it will not give them freely. We must earn them. We must show it that humanity is worthy. Mira looked at her, eyes wide. And if we fail? Elara shook her head. We won't. We'll understand it, learn from it, and prove ourselves. That's why we're here. With renewed determination, the team prepared to venture deeper into the ship. Every corridor, every chamber, every pulse of energy brought them closer to the truth. And though the ship continued to shift, moving subtly each night, they felt a growing connection to it, a fragile understanding that they were no longer merely observers. They were participants in a story far larger than themselves, a story that stretched across the stars and through the remnants of a lost civilization. And as they stepped forward, deeper into the heart of the ship, the boundaries between human and alien, observer and observed, began to blur. The journey had only just begun, and the mysteries of the shipwreck promised challenges, revelations, and tests that would push the limits of human courage, intelligence, and spirit. The deeper the team ventured into the ship, the more alive it seemed to become. Corridors twisted and curved in ways that defied logic. As if the very architecture were breathing, the glowing symbols along the walls pulsed faster, like a heartbeat, guiding the team through a labyrinth they could not hope to map. Each step carried them further from the known and closer to something vast, ancient, and powerful. Commander Elara Miles led the way, her senses sharp, her mind alert to every flicker of light, every pulse of energy. She had learned to trust the subtle shifts of the ship, the gentle nudges that suggested which path to take. Lieutenant Joran followed, carefully recording every movement and change, while Dr. Mira Han analyzed the energy readings with a mix of awe and fear. KL, ever vigilant, swept the corridors for danger, though the only threats seemed to come from the ship itself. They entered a massive chamber, the walls of which shimmered with translucent panels that displayed images of stars, planets, and spacecraft moving in elegant formations. At the center floated a large sphere, glowing with blue and gold energy, casting light that reflected across the team's faces. Mira gasped. This is incredible. The energy here is unlike anything I've ever measured. It's sentient. It's aware of us. And it's communicating. Elara approached the sphere cautiously. She felt a wave of warmth and clarity wash over her, a presence that was powerful but not threatening. I think it's testing us, she said quietly. It wants to see if we can understand it, if we're worthy of what it holds. Joran frowned. Worthy? Of what? The knowledge of its creators, the technology, the history. Everything this ship has preserved, Elara replied. And perhaps more. We need to prove ourselves. Suddenly, the sphere pulsed, sending waves of energy that seemed to interact with their minds. Images flashed before them. Alien cities rising and falling. Starships navigating strange networks of stars. And beings they could not identify, moving with precision and intelligence. The visions were intense but fragmented, leaving the team with a sense of urgency and responsibility. Mira's voice trembled. It's showing us their past, the rise and fall of their civilization, and I think it's showing us warnings. They didn't survive. Perhaps it's telling us what could happen to us if we misuse what we learn. KL shifted uneasily. This is more than just a ship. This is a guardian. And if it thinks we're not ready, we could be in serious trouble. Ilara placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. Then we need to prove ourselves, not just with our knowledge, but with our judgment, our courage, and our humanity. As they studied the sphere, the ship suddenly trembled. The floor shifted beneath them, and corridors that had seemed solid moments ago began to warp. The walls twisted, and shadows moved with a life of their own. It was not a random tremor. It was a deliberate act. The ship was alive, aware, and responding. Joran's eyes widened. It's testing us again. But this time, harder. From the shadows, projections began to emerge. Not illusions of themselves this time, but forms that resembled alien beings, ghostly. Transparent figures that moved gracefully through the air. They were not hostile, but their presence was overwhelming. Their eyes glowing softly as they observed the humans. Mira whispered. They're memories. Echoes of the crew, or perhaps the people who built the ship. They're showing us who they were, and maybe what we could become if we fail. The projections moved closer, and the ship shifted once more. Tilting subtly, Ilara felt the pressure of energy against her mind, testing her focus, her determination, her ability to remain calm under extraordinary circumstances. We can't falter, she said, her voice steady. We have to stay focused. We have to show that humanity can rise to the challenge. Hours passed as they navigated the shifting corridors, following the sphere's guidance. Every chamber revealed more of the ship's secrets. Devices that could manipulate energy, panels that displayed star systems never charted by humans, and crystalline structures that seemed to store knowledge in a form beyond comprehension. Each discovery was awe-inspiring, but also a reminder of the responsibility that came with such power. Then came the sound of engines outside. Kale's head snapped toward the corridor. We're not alone, he shouted. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Who? Before anyone could answer, a new team entered the ship, a rival expedition from another human faction, drawn by rumors of the moving ship and its ancient technology. They were armed, organized, and aggressive. Their leader, a tall man with sharp features and a confident stance, spoke first. Step aside. This ship belongs to us now. Move away, and no one gets hurt. Ilara stood her ground. It doesn't belong to anyone yet. This ship tests those who enter. If you try to take it by force, you'll fail. And you could die. The rival leader laughed. We'll see about that. We're not afraid of tests. The tension in the corridor was palpable. The ship, as if sensing the threat, shifted violently. The floor trembled, walls twisted, and corridors that had seemed straightforward became confusing and disorienting. The rival team stumbled, disoriented by the ship's subtle manipulations. Kale fired a warning shot, energy crackling in the confined space. Stay back! This isn't a negotiation. Ilara moved to the sphere, placing her hands on its surface. The energy responded, sending waves that pushed the intruders back, not harming them directly, but making them lose balance. The rival team regrouped, but the ship continued to protect its guardians, making movement difficult for anyone who approached without understanding. Mira looked at Ilara, her eyes wide. It's defending itself. Defending us. Or maybe testing everyone who enters. Ilara nodded. Exactly. This is why we're here. To prove we can handle this responsibly. The rival team tried to force their way forward, but the ship's energy created barriers that shifted with precision. Every attempt to push past resulted in confusion, disorientation, and setbacks. It became clear that brute force would not work. Only those who could adapt, think critically, and respect the ship's intelligence could proceed. Elara's team pressed on, guided by the sphere. They moved deeper into the heart of the ship, where the energy became denser, more complex, and almost overwhelming. The corridors were narrow, walls glowing with alien symbols, and every step seemed to resonate with the pulse of the ship itself. At last, they reached a chamber that was unlike any other. The walls were entirely crystalline, reflecting light and energy in a dazzling display. At the center floated a core of energy, a brilliant, shifting mass that radiated power. This was the heart of the ship, the source of its sentience, its movement, and its tests. Elara approached cautiously. The core pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. She could feel its intelligence probing her mind, assessing her thoughts, her intentions, and her resolve. "This is it," she whispered. "This is what the ship has been leading us to. The heart." Mira stepped forward, scanning the energy readings. "It's alive. Not biological life. Not AI in the way we understand. It's consciousness itself, bound to this ship. It's protecting something, or someone, and it's testing us to see if we're worthy." Joran frowned. "And what happens if we fail?" Elara took a deep breath. "We don't fail. We adapt. We learn. We prove ourselves. That's what humanity does." The rival team had finally regrouped outside the chamber, attempting to breach it. But the core pulsed, and energy waves forced them back, creating barriers and disorienting them. It was clear that the ship would not allow anyone to claim its secrets without earning them. Elara placed her hand on the core. Images flooded her mind. Star systems, alien civilizations, and the fate of the ship's creators. They had perished due to greed, conflict, and misuse of technology. And now, the ship was testing humanity to see if they could avoid the same fate. "We have to prove ourselves," she said, turning to her team, "not just with knowledge, but with courage, empathy, and wisdom. This ship isn't just a relic. It's a guardian, and it will only give its secrets to those who are ready." Mira nodded. "Then let's show it. Let's prove that humans can rise to the challenge." As the team prepared for the next phase of the test, the ship's energy pulsed stronger, almost in approval. The path forward was still uncertain, the rival team still outside, and the heart of the ship still holding its secrets. But for the first time, Elara felt a connection, a fragile understanding that humanity might indeed be worthy of what lay within. And as the ship continued to shift, subtly and deliberately, they realized that every challenge, every test, and every vision was not just about survival, it was about growth, about proving that humanity's spirit, its courage, intelligence, and empathy was strong enough to carry the knowledge of the stars forward without repeating the mistakes of the past. The journey was far from over. The heart of the ship awaited, and with it, the ultimate test. Humanity's future, perhaps, depended on what they would do next. The chamber hummed with energy, its crystalline walls reflecting light in a dazzling array. At the center floated the core of the ship, pulsating with intelligence, awareness, and power. Commander Elara Miles stood before it, her team close behind, hearts racing with a mix of awe and apprehension. Every step they had taken, every challenge they had faced, had led them to this moment. The final test awaited, and the weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon them. Outside, the rival human team lingered, their impatience growing. They had tried to force their way in, but the ship's defenses had repelled them. Energy barriers had twisted corridors, shifted floors, and projected illusions that left the intruders disoriented and frustrated. The rival leader's confident expression had faltered, replaced with doubt. The ship was no ordinary vessel, and they had underestimated its intelligence and power. Elara turned to her team. "This is it. We have to show that humanity is worthy, not through force, not through fear, but through understanding, empathy, and courage. The ship isn't testing strength. It's testing our spirit." Mirahan nodded, her tablet glowing as it recorded the fluctuating energy. "I think I understand now. The ship's tests weren't just puzzles or illusions. They were reflections of us, our fears, our choices, our character. It measures our ability to handle responsibility, to wield power wisely. Joran adjusted his gear, eyes scanning the chamber. Then let's be careful. One wrong move, and we could fail entirely. Kale remained silent, though his expression was resolute. He had seen enough of the ship's subtle manipulations to understand that this was more than a physical challenge. It was a test of intellect, morality, and courage. Elara stepped closer to the core, placing her hands lightly above the glowing energy. The pulse of the ship resonated through her, not violently, but insistently. Images flashed in her mind. The rise of a civilization, the pride and ambition of its people, and their ultimate downfall. She saw their mistakes: greed, conflict, misuse of power, and the warning was unmistakable. This ship survived while its creators didn't, she whispered. It's asking us if humanity can do better. The core pulsed, sending a wave of energy that swept over the team. It was not harmful, but it pressed against their consciousness, probing their thoughts, their intentions. Each member felt it differently. Mira saw visions of knowledge and discovery. Joran felt the weight of responsibility. Kale confronted his fear of failure, and Elara sensed the immense possibility of what humanity could achieve. Suddenly, the room shifted. The crystalline walls warped, and a series of pathways appeared, floating in midair, leading toward the heart of the core. The ship was guiding them, testing whether they could follow with clarity and purpose. Careful, Elara said. We move together. One step at a time, they advanced slowly, each step measured and deliberate. The pathways were narrow and illuminated by the core's radiant light. Mira scanned the energy patterns, deciphering their flow, while Joran kept track of the shifting architecture. Kale remained alert, ready to respond to any unexpected threat, though no physical danger appeared. The challenge was mental, moral, and spiritual. As they reached the inner chamber, the rival team outside grew increasingly desperate. The ship projected illusions to keep them from forcing entry, showing visions of collapse, danger, and confusion. Their leader shouted orders, but the illusions twisted reality, leaving them trapped in a maze of their own impatience and arrogance. The ship did not need to fight them. It simply tested their intentions, revealing their unworthiness without causing them direct harm. Inside, Elara's team reached the center of the core's chamber. The energy was overwhelming, pulsing like the heartbeat of a star. Symbols floated in the air, arranging themselves into patterns that conveyed meaning without words. Mira's tablet struggled to record the data, but she understood that this was knowledge beyond human comprehension, meant to be absorbed, not copied. Elara closed her eyes, allowing herself to connect with the ship's consciousness. She sensed its questions, its doubts, and its hope. It sought a civilization capable of wisdom, compassion, and responsibility. It sought humans who could rise above greed and fear, who could use knowledge for growth rather than destruction. We understand, she said aloud, though the core seemed to hear more than her words. We know what you endured. We see the mistakes of the past, and we will learn. Humanity will rise to the challenge. We will act with caution, courage, and empathy. That is our promise. The core pulsed brighter, the light washing over the chamber in waves. The floating pathways solidified, and the projections that had tested their fears dissolved. The energy shifted from testing to acceptance. The ship's pulse slowed, almost in relief, and a sense of calm filled the chamber. Mira looked around in awe. It believes us. It recognizes our intent. We're worthy. Elara smiled, a mixture of relief and determination. Not because we are perfect, but because we chose to act wisely. That is what matters. The core projected a map of distant star systems, networks of pathways, and technological designs. It revealed blueprints for energy manipulation, propulsion systems far beyond human capability, and insights into civilizations that had long vanished. The ship offered these not as tools of conquest, but as lessons, opportunities to grow without repeating past mistakes. Joran traced the patterns with his fingers. This could change everything. Our understanding of the galaxy, of travel, of energy, everything. Kale remained quiet, studying the chamber. And the rival team? Elara looked toward the corridors that led outward. Outside, the rival team was still trapped in the ship's shifting illusions. The ship had not destroyed them, it simply showed them their unworthiness. Only those who approached with respect, patience, and understanding could access its knowledge. We don't need to harm them, Elara said. The ship has already done what we couldn't. It showed them the consequences of arrogance and impatience. That is enough. The core pulsed again, sending a gentle wave through the chamber. Elara felt it in her mind, a subtle acknowledgement of their achievement. The ship had accepted them. Humanity, represented by this small team, had proven worthy of its secrets. Mira recorded every detail she could, careful not to overwhelm the ship's energy. We have to be cautious, she said. The knowledge is vast. If misused, it could be dangerous. Elara nodded. We will. That is why we are here to learn, to understand, and to use what we gain responsibly. The chamber shifted again. But this time it was not testing or defending. It rearranged itself to allow safe passage. The core's energy flowed like a gentle river, guiding them toward the exit. Outside, the ship's hull had stabilized, no longer shifting nightly. It rested on the plateau, its movement deliberate and still, as if satisfied with its choice. The team emerged from the ship, the pale light of Virelia 3 reflecting off the hull. They felt a sense of accomplishment, but also the weight of responsibility. The knowledge they carried was immense, and its potential impact on humanity was profound. Elara looked at her team. We've learned more than we ever imagined. But this is only the beginning. The ship's guidance, the knowledge of its creators. It's up to us to ensure we use it wisely. Joran nodded, a mixture of excitement and caution in his expression. We have the means to explore new star systems, to understand energies beyond our current science. But we also have to avoid the mistakes that destroyed the civilization that built this ship. Mira smiled, though her eyes were thoughtful. We can do this. We've already proven that we can learn, adapt, and act responsibly. Humanity can rise to the challenge. Kale, for the first time in hours, relaxed. Then let's make sure we do it right. No shortcuts. No greed. No recklessness. We follow the ship's guidance, and will survive and thrive. The sun rose higher over Virelia 3, casting long shadows across the plateau. The ship, once a mysterious wreck shifting inexplicably each night, now stood as a symbol of hope, guidance, and responsibility. Humanity had been tested, and it had passed. Elara turned to look at the horizon, her mind filled with possibilities. The ship had offered a path forward, a way to explore the stars, to learn from the past, and to build a future guided by knowledge and wisdom. She felt a surge of pride, not just in her team, but in humanity itself. This is our chance, she said softly. A chance to grow, to explore, to rise above our limitations. And we won't waste it. The team gathered around the shuttle, ready to return to their base with the knowledge they had gained. They carried not just technology, but understanding lessons of responsibility, courage, and empathy that could guide humanity into a new era. As they lifted off, the ship remained behind, its energy calm and steady. It had done its part. It had tested humanity, offered its wisdom, and chosen those who could handle it. The legacy of an extinct civilization, once lost to time, now had a chance to live again through those who had proven themselves worthy. Elara looked back one last time. The ship was silent, majestic, and waiting. Waiting for the next explorers, the next generation, the next humans who could rise to meet the challenges of the universe. And as they soared into the sky, leaving Virelia 3 behind, Elara felt a deep certainty. Humanity's journey was just beginning. Guided by the lessons of the past and the promise of the stars, they had faced the unknown, proven their worth, and earned the right to explore the cosmos with courage, wisdom, and hope. The shipwreck, once a mystery that shifted nightly without explanation, had become a testament to human resilience, curiosity, and the indomitable spirit that would carry them into the future. Humanity had risen, and the universe would remember.